Hi, this is Little Dwarf playing games while rambling incoherently into a microphone. Why? Well, just because I can, and this time I'll be playing Deus Ex Mankind Divided Blind. Now, I've played Human Revolution a couple of months ago, and I really enjoyed it, so I'm looking forward to see how it continues. In fact, I've only played Deus Ex games at all, discovered the whole series last year, and generally I really liked it. Of course, Invisible War was a little bit meh, especially compared to Deus Ex 1, but Deus Ex 1 was great, and even Invisible War wasn't as bad as I was led to believe. Now, obviously, Human Revolution I enjoyed a lot more than that. I would say it was perhaps even on par with Deus Ex 1 in terms of how much I enjoyed it, and in terms of what it offered when it comes to things that I find interesting or engaging in games. So I'm eager to see where Mankind Divided will go. Now, I should perhaps tell you a little bit about how this playthrough is going to work. So obviously it is a blind playthrough. I do not know anything about the game, nor do I know anything about optimal strategies to build your character or anything. I'm just going to do what I consider to be right at the moment, but generally what I would like you to know is that my playstyle is rather slow. I really like exploring, I really like looking around for details, and I'm one of those people who really try to talk to every NPC, to read every piece of flavor text and everything like that, to experience everything that the game has to offer. In fact, it wouldn't be anything out of the ordinary, and in fact it did happen a number of times in Human Revolution that I spent up to half an hour in a single room just looking around, at what kind of books the NPCs are into, or what kind of posters do they have on the walls, and then trying to make assumptions about their character or about the story based on that. And I often pause to wonder about where the plot is going to lead, or to tell you about my thoughts and feelings regarding the characters and what is happening. So generally, I wouldn't say I'm definitely on the polar opposite of rushing things. So if any of this sounds boring to you, then perhaps you're not going to enjoy this. But if you're willing to give it a try, look at the description, because I'll try to post timestamps there, so that if at any point you feel that I'm spending too much time in one place just rambling, you can maybe skip to the next part. So I guess I can start, although there's one more thing I would like to say before I begin. There are two watchers of mine, that's the two viewers, that I would like to thank, because they've left many cool comments underneath my Human Revolution playthrough, and we've had a number of discussions about various plot points and whatever, and I really enjoyed talking with you. Those people are LunarBob19 and Matthew Terwain. So if any of you will be watching this, then I thank you again, and I hope you're going to leave some comments underneath this playthrough as well, so that we can discuss something more about how this game plays and what do I think about it. So with that being said, I think I'm ready to start. Now, it says continue here because I entered the game just for a minute to set up audio and controls, but I didn't progress at all past the intro, so this is completely blind. Now, I am going to play on the Give Me Deus Ex level, which I understand is roughly analogous to hard. I can't play on Never Asked for this because I think it's locked as a New Game Plus feature. Now, I will play on hard, not because I'm particularly good at the game. in fact, I wouldn't say I'm particularly good at any kind of game, but I usually go for the higher difficulties just because I find it more fulfilling and more challenging. I enjoy the challenge and I enjoy the added difficulty, even if it leads me to die in the game from time to time. So I'm willing to bear through it. That's just how I roll, generally speaking. So yeah, give me Deus Ex. Sure to start a new game. Yeah, as I said, I didn't really play past the intro, so it doesn't matter. You can enjoy as a standalone experience. You can relive the events of Deus Ex Human Revolution by watching a 12-minute recap video. That's quite a long recap, and to be honest, I don't really need it, because I remember the events of Human Revolution quite clearly, but I think I'm going to watch it just because I'm curious how they will frame it. Like, will it be a tale narrated by Jensen? And if so, I'm wondering what's his choice of words going to be, recapping those events. And it might also be useful for those of you who either didn't watch or didn't play Human Revolution yourself, or already forgot the details of it. But if you're not interested in it, there will be a timestamp in the description that will allow you to skip it and go straight into the game. So yeah, I can watch the recap video.
The year was 2027. Advances in biotechnology were helping people improve their physical and mental abilities to an amazing degree. Provided, of course, they had enough money. A new breed of people was emerging, half human, half machine. And in Detroit, at least, not everyone was happy to see it. I'd just landed a job as head of security at Sarif Industries, a cutting-edge biotech firm. David Sarif himself handpicked me for the job, said he needed me to keep his people safe. My ex, Megan Reed, was one of them. Brilliant neuroscientist, Megan had found a way to make augmentation safe and affordable for everyone. All she had to do was present her research to Congress. But the night before her big meeting, my security measures failed. A team of Black Op mercenaries stormed into Sarif headquarters, massacring everyone in sight. 3 of the mercs were heavily augmented walking tanks. Their mission? Take out Megan and her team. I tried to stop them, but their leader tossed me through a plate glass wall. Last thing I heard as his bullets slammed into my brain was Megan's dying scream. I should have died with her. Only I didn't. High-end military-grade enhancements saved my life. The best augmentation Sarif's money could buy. Took me half a year to get a feel for her. Should have taken longer. But 6 months into my recovery, Sarif Industries was attacked again. This time, by a radical group of pro-human purists. Violent, militant, and fanatically opposed to human augmentation. They claimed to be members of Humanity Front, a non-profit organization that wanted the UN to limit biotechnology research. The thugs broke into Sarif's factory and found machinists working overtime on a top-secret military augment called the Typhoon. Sarif sent me to retrieve it, and when I did, I found one of the so-called purists next to it, wired with cerebral implants, trying to download its classified specs. Obviously, something more was going on. The AUG killed himself before I could question him. Sarif ordered me to dig deeper, so with the help of Frank Pritchard, Sarif's head of cybersecurity, I did. Turns out a second hacker had been controlling the AUG's actions from somewhere off-site. Pritchard and I tracked his signal to a secret FEMA internment camp in Detroit. The Black Op mercenaries were there. The same mercs who'd left me for dead 6 months before. Figured they'd try again when they saw me. It wasn't so easy for them this time. I took out the tank named Barrett, even got him to give me a new lead. A penthouse apartment in China. Of course, we both knew it would be a trap in the end. Hengsha Island, China. Home to a city so crowded, they had to build a second city on top of it. Trying to find clues in Hengsho wouldn't be easy. Lucky for me, I wasn't alone. Farida Malik, Seraph Industries' ace pilot, had lived in Hengsho before. A good person to have on your side. She knew enough about the place to get me around. Malik dropped me in the lower city, close to the penthouse Barrett had told me about. Bell Tower Associates, a private security firm under contract to the Chinese government, had agents tossing the suite when I arrived. Just not for the reason I'd been expecting. Turns out the man who lived there was a criminal hacker named Van Bruggen. The same hacker who'd been remotely controlling the AUG in Seraph's factory. Van Bruggen's panicked decision to force the man to commit suicide had been a mistake. Now his mercenary partners were gunning for him, and I needed to find him before they did. Locating Van Bruggen meant playing nice with the Triads, Hengsho's organized crime lords. They had the hacker holed up inside a low-rent capsule hotel. By the time I found him, Van Bruggen had no qualms giving up the woman who hired him. Zhao Yunru, president of the Taiyang Medical Corporation. According to Van Bruggen, Zhao wanted to monopolize the augmentation industry and had hired Black Op mercenaries to destabilize her competition. Seraph Industries was at the top of her list. To prove this, I needed to get inside TYM and grab a surveillance hologram off a server. I suspected Van Bruggen was hiding something when he told me this, but nothing could have prepared me for what I saw. Megan wasn't dead. She and her 4 best researchers had been kidnapped, spirited away somewhere while their kidnappers made it look like they were dead. Desperate to learn more, I confronted Zhao in her penthouse. She claimed to be a pawn in a bigger plan, and hinted at a group so powerful it controlled global interests at a whim. Then she slipped into a panic room and hit the alarm, forcing me to make a very quick exit. I figured Zhao was lying, but part of her confession made sense. David Seraph had been worried about his people. So worried, he'd required all of them to have subdermal locator devices surgically implanted. The GPOs would have been broadcasting the day of the attack. But Zhao said a single call to Pacifist, the world's leader in global 24-hour satellite news, had turned those signals off. I needed to fly to Pacifist headquarters in Montreal if I wanted to learn more. Eliza Kassan, Pacifist Communications' First Lady of News. Malik thought I was reaching when I told her Eliza was involved in this. The world's most famous news anchor, working with a mercenary hit squad. But when I confronted Kassan in her office, she freely admitted to jamming Detroit's satellites the night Megan's team had been taken. Said she's just been following her commands. I suspected she wanted to say more. But Black Op mercenaries showed up looking to shut us both down. And just like that, the Eliza I'd been talking to disappeared. The mercs were led by an augmented killer I'd crossed paths with twice before. Fedorova, a woman who'd made silence her best friend. She waited for me to track Eliza's transmission to a secret server room underneath the Picus complex, then jumped me from behind. A deadly fight ensued. I made sure she never moved silently again. With Fedorova down and no one left to keep Eliza quiet, she reappeared. Turns out Picus's First Lady of News wasn't a lady at all. She was a sophisticated AI program, engineered to monitor data streams and control what people believed. Eliza told me the mercs had brought in a Humanity Front doctor named Isaiah Sandoval to remove the scientist's implanted tracking devices while Detroit's satellites were down. She also told me to speak to David Seraph if I wanted to learn more. By the time Malik and I got back to Detroit, tensions between normal and augmented citizens had reached a flashpoint. Riots were breaking out in several cities, and the UN was being urged to intervene. Seraph was trying hard to convince Hugh Darrow, the inventor turned philanthropist who'd once been a leading proponent of enhancement technologies, to help stop a possible regulatory vote. Seraph had a lot riding on Darrow. Megan's discovery would have given millions of people the chance to evolve beyond their normal human abilities, and at the same time catapulted Seraph Industries to the top of the Fortune 500. According to Seraph, Megan's kidnappers knew this, and didn't want people evolving unless they controlled how it was done. He called his enemies Illuminati, and urged me to keep searching. Determined to do so, I tracked down Sandoval via America's most outspoken augmentation opponent, Bill Taggart, Sandoval's boss and founder of Humanity Front. Sandoval admitted to operating on Megan's team when I confronted him, but said he hadn't removed their GPLs. He'd merely switched them to a different frequency. Pritchard was able to trace one of the signals to China. Malik and I immediately took off in pursuit. Unfortunately, the Illuminati were one step ahead. Ambushed. Shot out of the sky by Bell Tower Associates, seconds after entering Hengsha's airspace. Malik's piloting skills saved me. After a tense and bitter struggle, I escaped into Lower Hengsha. The tracking signal I was following led straight to the Triads, or more specifically, to the augmented arm of Tong Si-hung, leader of a gang of augmentation harvesters. Tong said they'd taken the arm off a corpse, which Bell Tower had left at their door, meaning at least one of Seraph's scientists was dead. Maybe not the rest of them, though. Tong pointed me to a port used for human trafficking and helped me slip aboard a Bell Tower ship. It was sailing to Rifleman Bank Station, a military base in the South China Sea. Bell Tower was holding kidnapped civilians as prisoners there, and using them to perfect the Hyron Project, a human-computer interface that left most of its test subjects dead. My search for Megan would have ended then, if not for a mysterious ally named Quinn. In exchange for my help exposing Bell Tower, he slipped me aboard a second ship headed to Singapore, and an Illuminati-run biotech facility called Omega Ranch. 3 of Seraph's scientists were there, forced by their captors to create a technology capable of remotely shutting down augmented abilities. Thanks to an emergency recall notice issued by the World Health Organization, millions of people all over the world already had the biochip installed. With the help of the scientists, I tracked Megan to a private section of the ranch. There, I ran into Yaron Namir, the walking tank who'd put a bullet in my brain the first time we met. He'd teamed up with Zhao and was hoping to catch me off guard. Their little ambush didn't work. I found Megan in a suite belonging to Hugh Darrow, the billionaire philanthropist who'd Seraph had called on for help. Darrow had convinced her to go along with the biochip plan by promising to sabotage the tech. As she was explaining this, Darrow appeared in a global broadcast, telling the world that augmentations would be the death of mankind. Then he activated the biochips to prove his point. All over the world, augmented people flew into a killing frenzy. Darrow had betrayed everyone, and it was up to me to set things right. To do it, I had to reach Panchaea, a massive installation in the Arctic Ocean. As I raced through corridors built by an all-augmented workforce, I saw death and destruction firsthand. By the time I shut down Darrow's broadcast, I knew the damage he'd done. Still, humanity's future remained unclear. How would the world react to this sabotage? Would people ever regain their faith in augmentations again? What would be the Illuminati's next move? Only time could give us the answers. I once thought I could save the world. Now look at it.
In yet another augmented terror attack, 251 passengers aboard Sister Airlines Flight 451 were killed when an augmented passenger broke into the plane's cockpit and ruthlessly butchered its flight crew. Details recovered from the black box recorder suggest that the man may have been suffering flashbacks to the AUG incident. That horrible day 2 years ago when augmented people all over the world flew into a psychotic killing spree, causing the greatest loss of life in recent history.
Sometimes you just have to let go and embrace what you've become.
Not gonna go all wonky on us now, Hansa, are you?
Well, if I do, McCready, I guarantee you'll never see it coming.
Agent Jensen! Am I gonna have a problem with you?
No, sir. No reason to assume you would.
Good, because you are the only augmented operative on this team, and I intend to make good use of you.
Listen up, all of you.
We got a sandstorm barreling down our arse and we can't afford to make mistakes. We're going after this man, an arms dealer named Shepard. He's ex-Bell Tower, one of the Special Forces commanders who disappeared during the incident.
And he's come out of hiding. That cannot be good.
It's not. He's selling weapons and military-grade augments to terrorists. This is Iran Singh, the undercover agent who lured Shepard out of his hole. Best you see Interpol's got. For 3 years he's worked hard to get in tight with the Jinn, an Iraqi smuggling cartel that's infected the Eastern Hemisphere like a plague. Last week, our arms dealer sent a message to the Jinn, offering to sell them a shitload of black market merchandise dirt cheap. They told Singh to handle the buy.
They're not gonna like it when Interpol disrupts that party. Singh's cover really that good?
It is right now. We need to keep it that way. This is where the deal's going down. A half-finished high-rise hotel that's been abandoned ever since the incident. It's not a pretty picture inside.
Let me guess. Most of the laborers were augmented with heavy-duty industrial rigs. So when the incident hit, and they all went schizo, things got gruesome real fast.
And no one, except for some homeless junkies, have been inside the place ever since.
So what's the plan, Director?
Singh's meeting Shepard on the ground floor, inside the hotel's main atrium. He sent the bulk of his Jinn crew to the penthouse levels to secure a vantage point. I want McCready's team to take up positions overlooking the atrium and make the arrest. Jensen, you're going in solo from the roof.
My objectives?
Keep the Jinn from joining the party. As far as we can tell, only one route connects the atrium to the penthouse level, a halfway decent elevator shaft. Here. I want you to block access to it.
Fine. Just cut me loose.
Do you plan on relying solely on your augments for this one? I'd recommend taking a little hardware, just to be sure.
Okay, before I choose my either lethal or non-lethal option, there is already a bunch of things I would like to at least briefly touch on. Now, the recap itself wasn't anything to write home about. In fact, it was much more what's the word? Much more detailed than I think it needed to be, and much less interesting, because Jensen didn't really add. He was pretty matter of fact. He didn't really add a lot of like emotional flavor to what was happening. He did sneak a bit of his opinion here and there. For example, he called Malik a good person to be around or something like that, but generally it wasn't too interesting, especially seeing how I remembered the details of the first, not the first, the Human Revolution game quite well, but it didn't actually answer one of my major questions, which is which one of the endings of the first one, I mean not the first one again, which one of the endings of the Human Revolution is this game going to treat as canon? Because I myself chose the David Sarif ending, where basically the whole org incident got blamed on anti-argumentation fanatics. I didn't do it because I thought it was necessarily a right thing to do. I felt pretty bad about spinning the narrative in such a way, but I did it because I felt that all of the other endings would have led to, either outlawing the argumentations outright, or in case if you sided with Taggart, actually leading to like strengthening of the Illuminati control, which in some way could have been even worse. And I'm a staunch believer that the argumentations and more broadly technology in general is generally a good thing and is a huge possibility for a lot of people. There's a huge potential in it to make people's lives better, as Jensen himself alluded to in the recap. I might have a little bit of a different perspective on that because I myself am slightly disabled. So, and I've met a lot of disabled people throughout my life while rehabilitating from my physical problems, having physical therapy and all that. So it speaks to me on like a deeper level. I feel all the potential that modern technology, not necessarily, in the way depicted here, although advanced prosthetics are certainly useful for many people potentially, but technology in general, advanced scientific research can improve people's lives in ways that a lot of people don't really think about, because if you're fully abled, then you don't really need to. You can, there's a lot of things that we take for granted, and there are people on this earth that don't really have this comfort, which I guess Jensen himself, in a way, is kind of an example of that, because as much as he doesn't like the fact that he's argumented, if he wasn't, then he would be either dead or bedridden for the rest of his life, and instead he's this, badass soldier, fully able to function on his own. Now, I'm not saying there are no problems with the whole argumentation thing. Actually, one of the more poignant shots in this whole recap for me was the part where Jensen was trying to drink whiskey from a glass, and it cracked beneath his metal fingers because he couldn't gauge his own strength. It's kind of interesting and kind of touching. Maybe not touching because the word denotes some kind of a positive feeling, but it's kind of sad even, I would say, because it makes me think of situations such as, for example, if you have a loved one and you have augmented arms, and you, for example, hug them, and you can't really tell, for example, if you're hurting them, because even though you control your the motor function of your arms, they aren't fully your own anymore. So that was kind of interesting. But as to reiterate to my earlier point, I'm not sure which one of the endings this is treating as canon. I guess this is going to be elaborated upon later, because there's been a significant time skip, 2 years between the ending of Human Revolution and the beginning of this game, and apparently Jensen, well, first of all, survived, and second of all, is now working as some kind of a anti-terrorist operative or something, because they mentioned Interpol, they mentioned terrorist organizations, and obviously this is some kind of a military group. Now, I have been talking a lot already, and this is just the intro. I'm going to go with non-lethal. I played all of the Deus Ex games so far using a non-lethal route, just because it fits a lot better with my preferred role-playing position. Generally, when playing games, I try to solve conflicts peacefully if possible, and I've always found the whole idea, the whole possibility of having a fully non-lethal route in Deus Ex games to be really great and interesting. So I'll try to not kill anyone. I'll go non-lethal.
We've got a UC in there. Might be easier to maintain his cover if he's not the only one still breathing when this is done.
Smart thinking.
Yeah, but if anything does happen to him, you'll be telling his wife. After you get out of the hospital, of course.
What about range? There's lots of wide spaces and high ceilings in there, but a number of tight and constrained rooms too.
So it's a crapshoot, really.
I'll go with a ranged weapon, just because I can always take people down, with my hands, using the actual takedown, which I assume is also a thing in this game, continuing from Human Revolution. So having a ranged option is generally better, I would say. Is he following my... No, I thought for a second that his head is following my cursor or something, but he's just bobbing his head in a weird way, which I guess is because of the air turbulence. Okay, let's take the rifle.
Well, I'm not looking to play dice with anyone in there. Give me something with distance.
Your call. Less chance of being seen and compromising Singh that way. One last thing, Jensen. Singh said that Jin are using some sort of portable Wi-Fi device to boost communications. He's got a better chance of maintaining cover if you disable it.
We'll keep an eye out for it. But aren't we on the clock here? You said there's a sandstorm moving in.
There is, and we got the intel on this mission at the very last minute. So we're scrambling a little. If it comes to it, your #1 priority is keeping the Jinn out of that atrium.
Copy that.
Time to put away your heavy thoughts, gentlemen. We're approaching the target building.
You're up first, Jensen. Let's do this.
Task Force Actual. This is Knife Leader. Engage Hush drives and descend to Angels 1-5.
Of course, he doesn't need a parachute because he has the Icarus landing system AUG, which is really cool. I always like this animation that plays when you use it. Okay, so obviously it has been
Leader, this is Jensen. I'm on the roof.
Solid copy. Move into the building. The access route you need to block is at the far end of the penthouses. And keep in mind, the direct route might not be the easiest one.
Roger that.
McCready will advise once his team is on the ground. Miller out.
It has been a couple months since I played Human Revolution, so I might need a little bit of time to reacquaintance myself with the controls, especially because even now I see that the UI is a little bit different in this game, and I can also see that I already have some of the AUGs, which makes total sense because obviously Jensen acquired most of them throughout the course of the previous game, which makes me think there's perhaps some kind of a traumatic event in the future in this one to justify, rolling it all back so that you can have your character progression back. But for now, I guess he's advanced in his argumentations. What else? Yeah, so let me take a look at my inventory here, because I wanted to put this at 1. So I have a trunk rifle. How do I inspect items to see? Examine. Typhoon. I'm not going to use that, because it's pretty deadly. It's like a missile launcher attached to Jensen's back, which doesn't really gel well with my non-lethal playstyle. And tranquilizer ammo. Biocell. Interesting. So I guess they finally moved, because in the first game you literally just used food to recharge your energy. It was explained as, you know, Jensen's metabolism on its own, recharging his augmentations over time. But a biocell is something that was actually back in Deus Ex 1, which chronologically is later. So I guess they are slowly moving in that direction. Portable version of energy storage cells used to power augmentations. Replenish your energy meter. Single cell items. Okay. And I also have a smoke grenade. Interesting. So that presumably gives you like cover from line of sight. Cloud of smoke obscuring enemy's line of sight here. Thick sight blocking smoke when triggered. Interesting. Well, the fact that I'm going non-lethal does not mean by any stretch of imagination that I'm good at stealth. In fact, I'm quite crap at the actual stealth mechanic of the game, but I'll try to not kill anyone nonetheless. Now, number of employees, 12,000. Well, that's quite a lot. Days since the last injury. Time. What does it say? Lost time injury. What does that mean? I must say I'm not particularly familiar.
Jensen, we're moving through. Oh, fuck!
What's wrong?
The Jinn have got a few Jennies up and running. Gonna have to hack keypads.
Should enjoy it, McCready. They have colors and shapes. Just remember, red means bad.
Fuck you.
There's obviously some kind of a rivalry going on in the group. I'm obviously not familiar with like the details of the construction workplace, so I'm not quite sure what lost time injury would mean. Like, is it a number of work hours that were like lost because a particular worker was not able to work or something? I'm not quite sure. Not that it matters that much. Starting date. Yeah, so it started a year before the events of Human Revolution, and then you know, was destroyed during the AUG incident. And apparently construction worker, yeah, I find it highly unlikely that all of those bodies would be still here with their possessions intact 2 years after it. Like, obviously I would imagine somebody would have scoured this place just to loot them a long time ago. Now, I am going to take their stuff. I know it's mightily disrespectful if you used a real-world lens to look at it, but, you know, they are dead. They've been dead for years now, so obviously nobody cares. It's pretty obvious, and they are not going to have any use for it. Whereas I, you know, probably one of the nicest. I'm going to be one of the nicest people in this whole game. You know, not trying to kill anyone, and I do need some funds to accomplish that. So, as much as it is distasteful in real-world terms, you have to simplify your morality system a little bit while playing games, because otherwise, okay, control schemes. I am going to view the tutorials, but I will cut them out just so that you don't have to watch them. It said Icarus Strike Q, so presumably I can like stun people. Yeah, augmented construction worker. I find it highly unlikely that all those people, the bodies, have been lying here for 2 years at this point, and nobody even looted their. They have actual money on them. Like, I understand nobody cares that much for like their hard hats or something. That's not particularly valuable, but they have actual money on them. And it has been lying here for 2 years. That's highly unlikely to me. But oh well, that's you know, games for you. Interesting. I wasn't paying attention to that before, but it seems they moved from like a cell system for the powering of the augmentations towards the bar system, which is also closer, incidentally, to how it worked in one long continuous bar that shortens. It's also closer to how it worked in Deus Ex 1, which again is chronologically later than this game. So that's interesting. I wonder how related this is to the actual reasons behind that decision. But there is, first of all, something here. I can't really interact with it, but also there is this, a triangle code. Pick up. Hold tab. Use the Deus Ex Universe phone app to scan this triangle code. Okay, freak that. I'm definitely not going to do that. That's kind of weird and pointless. I'm not sure what to think about it, but I can't really be bothered to do that. And to be honest, I find the whole concept kind of annoying, because I'm not playing this game to be using my phone. Like, I'm specifically playing it on my PC to just play it on a computer. Like, why would I even have my phone? Obviously, I do have my phone somewhere around. I need it in case somebody calls me, like from work or something. But I find this concept of forcing me to use my phone to access some additional information in game to be really annoying, and I don't think I'm going to do that unless I read somewhere or one of you tells me that it's like super interesting and adds a lot of depth. But even then, that would probably annoy me even more, because I really feel like important lore information or like flavor texts or something should be part of the actual game's UI instead of being incorporated in this weird roundabout way. So I'm not exactly a fan of that. Anything else here? Dead bodies. Okay, looks like nothing. Flying star. Fragile. And now, each time I encounter alphabets other than Latin in games, I always wonder, because unfortunately I can't really read, I can't really speak or read any languages other than Polish, which is my native language, and English. So I can't really, for example, tell what this means, but I always wonder if there are like troll messages in there, because obviously this game was, I assume, played by many people in Arabic-speaking countries, but it was developed in the West, and I guess mostly intended for Western audiences. So whenever there are like languages other than Latin alphabet based, I always wonder if what they write is actually correct. Because there have been a couple of instances in gaming where they actually like left lewd messages or like jokes written in other alphabets, because they knew that most of the people wouldn't even know that. Destructible vent, interesting. Well, that's a new thing. Trouble traffic cone. Okay, I don't think there's anything in here. There is, however, a dead body here. Oh, interesting. Pocket secretary. Okay, that's good. I stopped to take a look at it. It's interesting that you can pick up items even when you're on a ladder. Kasim Mir. Everyone has gone crazy. Yeah, this is about the AUG incident. Working on a fan system when we lost power. Stuck in here. They're killing everyone. Started screaming. Where are you? If you can, make it up to the storage area on the roof. It's caged. You should be safe here. medical supplies. Door code is 4801. Be safe. Okay, so I do have a code for one of the doors up ahead. I must say, I'm mightily disappointed that it's not 454. What was it again? 451 or 0451 or something to that effect, because that's a bit of a running joke in all of the Deus Ex games, and not only that, in many games like in System Shock, in Bioshock, and in some others as well. That's a nice vista. Although it's also interesting how the surroundings are partially flooded, which I guess is supposed to be a visual commentary on global warming and like the rising of the sea levels, because one of the motivations behind building Panchaea, the Arctic station in Human Revolution, was actually combating the rising sea levels and global warming in itself. And I guess after it getting destroyed, it sort of also destroyed all of the work that it accomplished. So presumably that's why everything is flooded, because it couldn't have been before. They've started building this hotel just a year before the ending of Human Revolution. So obviously they wouldn't be building it half flooded to begin with, because that doesn't freaking make sense. Okay, wear hard hats. No injuries, please. That's an interesting way to phrase it, because it almost make it seem like the management thinks that people were injuring themselves in the workplace on purpose. Medical box, well, I probably should take that. Again, they are not going to need it. This guy is specifically already dead, so medical supplies isn't really something that could help him anymore. In general, I try not to steal from living people too much in games, unless they like specifically just tried to kill me, or I learned something particularly horrible about them that would, that could let me to rationalize it in my head. Again, I do realize that in real life terms, this is all pretty petty. This is a very simplified view of morality, but you can't really. I mean, you could, but it would be very difficult to play a game like that from start to finish, because it wasn't really designed to facilitate this level of consumable absinthe. Interesting. Well, I'll take it for later, I guess, and more money. Wasn't really designed to facilitate this level of over-analyzing everything. Like, most people just, see stuff in game and just take it, because that's intended for you to take it. I don't think, at least, that most people consider it from like an in-universe perspective and start to wonder if maybe those people need it, because the NPCs aren't really people, they are characters in a video game. But I really like immersing myself really deeply into the games I play. That's why I try to consider it from a little bit of a different perspective. Press B to open the augmentation wheel. So it's like a shortcut menu. I guess I can only have 4 on like quick choose. Middle mouse button, you say? That's a weird. Oh, I guess I can have 5 because there is assigned slot 4 as well. On F4. Okay, I'll bite. So back. And this shows me where I can That's cool. That's actually a whole lot cooler than the same mechanic in Human Revolution, because there the breakable walls were really obvious, even to the naked eye, whereas here you can kind of tell, but not really. So it's really cool how you have to utilize... Oh, I can already see some enemies up ahead. It's quite a distance, the working of it, but it's cool how you must utilize this this augmentation to actually spot it. Locker open. Anything in here? Well, more money. Again, this is basically well, not grave robbing, but it's close enough. But oh well, they aren't going to miss it, and obviously if they've been here for 2 years and nobody picked it up, then nobody cares that much either way, so might as well put that money to some good use. Now I saw some enemies up ahead. Again, I'll view the tutorial on my own and cut it out. Okay, that wasn't particularly complicated, to be honest. Authorized personnel only. Well, not getting in here. Crates. Any more bodies or something? Locked. Keypad. Disabled. Okay, so I have to follow the wiring, presumably, to... Wow, okay, that's an unfortunate death. Another pocket secretary. Well, I'll read it in a moment. Okay, so this presumably, yeah, breaker. This will reignite anything interesting around here. Some enemies around the corner. Electrical hazard, do not touch, says the game, just as I'm about to touch it. Okay, so this is going to drain my power or even kill me, so presumably... Oh wait, there's something here. Oh, a biocell, okay. I'm going to take that as well. Presumably I need to go up here. Okay, that was not really that well done. I must be doing something wrong. Okay, close enough. Anything up here? Not really, I don't think so. Well, so I can drop down here and keypad. I did get a... Ah, but wait, is this the... if this was the storage closet, I would imagine the code would be displayed here. So, come on, it has to be 451. Or 0451. Yeah, there's even an achievement for that. Yeah, it's, as I said, it's a borderline memetic number at this point. It has been used as a key code for a number of games, including all of the Deus Ex games, all of the two of the System Shock games, some of the Bioshock games, maybe all of them, and some others. I'm going to put links in the description to a full list of titles, but basically it has to do with some of the people that worked on all of those games. Obviously they weren't all developed by the exact same team, but they shared some of the people, and it's like a running gag. Now, there are some people who think it refers to the book Fahrenheit 451, but apparently that's not the case. There has been an interview with Warren Spector one of the chief creators of the first Deus Ex, and he said that it's apparently just a number of their first office, like their office room or something. I'm going to put if I find it, I'm going to put it in the description as well. But oh, there's no, it's just throwable. I thought that I can inspect that, but I also had like a pocket secretary, right? And presumably this is going to give me the key, or oh, I guess it doesn't. So I guess that was dependent on me figuring it out on my own or hacking it. Which is really cool that they even gave you an achievement for just like assuming that 451 is going to be the code, because come on, it always is in those games. Meeting. Our investors are getting nervous. Seriously consider cutting their losses and getting out of this project. I do the same thing. Desert Jewel is not going to be completed by the delivery date. Would be the 5th time we've missed the date, and what that will mean. I need a way out before Wahab to hear things. I'll be in New York on the 10th. So apparently there have been some problems with this construction even before the whole Oak incident, and they were trying to get some funding and all that. Okay, there's some enemies just around the corner, right? But first, I should be ready. Cover tutorial. Follow the green. Blah, blah, blah. Now, do I want to play the tutorial? I feel like I should, but I also feel like it's going to be boring to watch, and I can't really, if it's going to be in real time, I can't really cut it out. I thought it was going to be like a video tutorial. So I'll think about it a little bit, but for now I'm seeing on the recording indicator that this episode has been long enough, which is kind of hilarious because nothing happened. I've mostly been talking for most of it about my feelings on the game, but that, I guess that, if nothing else, gives you an indication of how I play games. I really try to consider every details and what it means for the world and how I feel about it or whatever. So if you found it boring, then presumably you're going to find all of the rest of the playthrough to be quite boring as well. But what else? Yeah, but it has been about an hour, so I guess I'll think about whether I want to enter the tutorial mode or not. But for now, I think that's all for this one, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye!